Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री निताई गौर चंद्र की जय, श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। हिज होलीनेस श्री गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। निताई गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Gopal Krishna Goswami Niti Namine Prabhupadasya Sahitam Ya Prakasam Niti Racha Pracharan Kritvan Sadhu Bhavat Padaya Te Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So we are continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, The Age of Deterioration. Excuse me. And we are going to start a new chapter, chapter 10. Lord Shiva and Uma glorify Markandeya Rishi. Text number 1. Sutta Vacha Sa Evam Anubhuyedham Narayan Vinirmitam Vaibham Yoga Mayayas Tam Eva Sharanam Yayo. Translation by Disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Sutta Goswami said, the Supreme Lord Narayana had arranged this opulent display of his bewildering potency. Markandeya Rishi, having experienced it, took shelter of the Lord. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we can see that in this chapter, Markandeya Rishi, he receives a benediction from Lord Shiva. And in the last chapter, we saw how Markandeya Rishi, he desired to see Krishna's illusory energy, which is Maya. And Krishna fulfilled his desire. But as you can see, herein it states that that was possible because Krishna sanctioned it. So even though Markandeya Rishi had a desire, but it could not have been fulfilled without the sanction of Krishna. And Markandeya Rishi, he's praising, he's offering prayers to Lord Narayana who's in front of him. He says, I take shelter at your lotus feet. Why? Because when one takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then one becomes fearless. And that stage comes only when there is full surrender. Like complete surrender is required. Even if there is an inch of desire which is not Krishna conscious, it is not going to be possible. It has to be full surrender. And what is surrender? We've already learned in Bhagavad Gita. Surrender is not that we bow down or we just offer prayers. No, surrender means following the instructions. Surrender means being fully Krishna conscious. That is very important. And here we see that Markandeya Rishi, he's telling that even demigods are bewildered by your Maya. You see? And that is a conditioned state. Because those who are conditioned to live in a materialistic way, they continue to do that. And they're only, they have no attraction for the Supreme Lord. They have attraction only for sense gratification. That is what, they are interested in. And, it may appear that some person, materialistic person, is advancing, may advance in scientific knowledge, may become a scientist or whatever. But that person is still entangled in false identification with the body. And it's just a body concept. How can I satisfy my body? How can I satisfy my senses? And of course, how can I satisfy my mind, which is the biggest culprit, right? So they keep on getting more and more entangled, and they get more and more submerged in ignorance. And ignorance means just preparing to come back again into this material world. So Suta Goswami, he is informing the sages there that one day Lord Shiva, he was traveling in the sky on his bull. Can you imagine? Traveling on a bull on the street itself is so hard, but he is traveling in the air, he is in the sky, and along with is his wife Uma and also his associates. So when they were flying above on the bull, or whichever way they were going in the sky, at that time they noticed that Markandeya Rishi was in trance. He was like so absorbed in thinking about the Supreme Lord. He was in trance, and that Prabhupada explains is samadhi. Samadhi is not that happens after you leave the body, and samadhi doesn't mean you just, what you call, just the same thing, that just that, Prabhupada says you can reach the stage of samadhi even now in this present life, in this present material body. It's just that one has to learn the process and then follow that process through 100%. So here, Lord Shiva, Uma, and the associates, they saw Markandeya Rishi in trance. So Uma told Lord Shiva that if you see, my Lord, that Markandeya Rishi's body, mind, and senses are motionless. Can we sit motionless even for a second? No, we got to move. We get distracted by desires. We get distracted by something else or someone else. But here, Markandeya Rishi was so fully Krishna conscious that he was in trance, and it is mentioned that His body, you could see, is calm as waters of ocean when there is no wind. It's completely. So Markandeya Rishi also, in that trance, in that meditation, in that samadhi stage, he was completely motionless. That's what it looked like. Now, Uma is telling Shiva that you bestow perfection to those who perform austerities. So please award this sage the perfection. Uma wanted Lord Shiva to give this benediction, to Markandeya Rishi. So Lord Shiva said, he doesn't desire any benediction. That is the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. That is the stage of full surrender, where there is no desire for anything at all. So Lord Shiva said he doesn't desire any benediction. He doesn't even desire liberation. Why? Because he has got pure devotional service to Krishna. You see? Now, he is also, Lord Shiva, he says that Markandeya Rishi did not want any reward available on any planet. Nothing he wanted. Why is that so? Because he had achieved Krishna himself. Now, if he has Krishna, what more does he want, right? He has achieved Krishna in the sense, in the heart, Krishna is situated as super soul, and he has realized that, and he's in that trance, in that state of meditation, that, there was no other desire at all. He had achieved Krishna himself. That is what Prabhupada explains, that when we have that sincere desire to surrender to the Lord, sincere desire to follow his instructions, then Krishna is so pleased. And Prabhupada says, then Krishna sells himself to the devotee. In the sense, he will allow the devotee to do whatever they want him to do, like, oh, in that stage, maybe they tell Krishna, play the flute, or Krishna, give me your peacock feather, or whatever it is. That is that stage of complete surrender and full Krishna consciousness. So when Lord Shiva said this, he knew that Markandeya Rishi doesn't want any benediction. He's at that stage, but he wanted to talk to Markandeya Rishi, because he mentions, Lord Shiva is mentioning, associating with saintly devotees is the highest achievement. And that is what Srila Prabhupada kept on stressing in his books, associate with devotees. Because when we associate with devotees, we start our progress towards highest perfection, you see. And when we associate with pure devotees, then we get Agyata Sukriti, we get knowledge, we get the mercy from them. What more can we want, right? So here, Sutta Goswami, he addressed Lord Shiva as a shelter of pure souls, master of all spiritual sciences, and controller of the embodied living entity. See how elevated, advanced position is of Lord Shiva. Very, very high. I mean, if we sit down to hear about Lord Shiva, it will take a very long time, days and weeks, just to hear the glories of Lord Shiva. And who is Lord Shiva? He is for the supermost Vaishnava. He is the supermost devotee of Lord Krishna. So even though Markandeya Rishi's mind had stopped functioning, which means his mind was absorbed in Krishna, he was too engrossed. You see, it is mentioned in this chapter. He was too engrossed in thinking about Krishna that he didn't even notice that Lord Shiva and Uma and the associates were all there present in front of him. He was not even aware of himself, right? What a high stage of perfection that is. We are all the time 24/7, 365 days. We are only conscious. We are aware of our body. What does our body need, right? Always being aware of body consciousness instead of Krishna consciousness. So, in fact, Prabhupada talks about this stage where Markandeya Rishi is. He explains in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati. What a liberated stage. You see, so he's talking about those who are in the liberated stage, not on the bodily platform, but someone who is always Krishna conscious, right? So now Lord Shiva, he used his mystic power to enter into Markandeya Rishi's heart. How beautiful is that? I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I'll repeat it again, because it is like a reference for this chapter. Geet Govind and I had gone to Mayapur. Oh, I don't know when. I guess it was 1996 or 97, 97, I think. And we spent a few weeks over there. And so that was the first time we experienced Parikrama, Mayapur, Navadvip. It's called Navadvip Parikrama. And we reached a stage, a place, and I forget the name of that place right now, but Jayapataka Maharaj was giving us lecture at that time, explaining the importance of that place. And he said that anyone who leaves that is a place where there is a deity of Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu together. So one side is Lord Vishnu, one side is Lord Shiva, and we saw that beautiful deity. And he said, Jayapataka Maharaj said that anyone who leaves the body on this land, in this place, Lord Shiva will personally come at the time of death, personally come and chant Hare Krishna in your ears so that you can go back to Godhead. What a beautiful place. And of course, what do you think was my thought? I told my husband, let's settle down here because we don't know when we are going to leave the body. So let's just stay here and we will be guaranteed that Lord Shiva will. Do you think it works like that? No, it doesn't work like that. Krishna decides when and how and where one is going to leave the body. It is not in our hands. Many times I've heard devotees have gone and lived in Vrindavan because they wanted to leave their body there. But it so happened that when the death was approaching, they were somewhere else. They had gone out of Vrindavan to do something and then they left the body there. Why? Because Krishna is the controller. He is the one who sanctions and he decides what, when, and where, how one is going to leave the body. So here, Lord Shiva, with his mystic power, he entered into Markandeya Rishi's heart. How fortunate is Markandeya Rishi, right? How fortunate that he gets a chance to experience Lord Shiva within his heart. Just like uh, Parikshit Maharaj, he was able to see Krishna within the womb of Uttara. While he was in the womb, he had darshan of Lord Krishna over there in the womb. So I'm going to read verse number 11 through 13. It's together. Sri Markandeya saw Lord Shiva suddenly appear within his heart. What would happen to us? We might get a heart attack, like, who is this? Oh, Lord Shiva in my heart, or Lord Krishna in my heart. That is a stage Prabhupada wants us to come to, fully Krishna conscious, where we can realize Krishna within our heart as a super soul. So he suddenly appeared within his heart. Lord Shiva's golden hair, how beautiful description. Golden hair resembled lightning, and he had 3 eyes, 10 arms, and a tall body that shone like the rising sun. He wore a tiger skin and he carried a trident, a bow, arrows, a sword, and a shield, along with prayer beads. You see, along with prayer beads, a damaru drum, a skull, and an axe. Astonished, the sage came out of his trance and thought, who is this? And where has he come from? Right? So this was his first reaction. Oh, see how beautifully the description of Lord Shiva is given in this verse. So when Markandeya Rishi saw Lord Shiva in the heart, that is when he became aware of all of them present, and he became aware of himself. What a stage of perfection, where we forget ourselves, we forget what we want, we forget the problems we have. Oh, that would be cool, right? Forget all the problems. That doesn't happen unless we come to the stage like Markandeya Rishi. And in trance, of course, Markandeya Rishi was just absorbed in being aware of Krishna. So from the entrance of Lord Shiva, when he saw Lord Shiva, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, and he saw with Uma and the followers, immediately he offered his obeisances to them. And he, not only offered obeisances with his mind, heart, and body, but it was not just lip service, like go to the temple, say Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna, and then, we recite, offer obeisances. But where is the consciousness at that time? You see, when we go to the temple and we bow down, when we bow down to Srila Prabhupada, we need to be conscious of Srila Prabhupada, not a lip service of just chanting his mantra. No, we have to be conscious even while offering obeisances to the deities. Which deity are we offering our respects, obeisances to? Meditate on them, think about them, chant about them, and this is how we start the purificatory process. So he not only offered with his mind but with his heart and body, and he started appreciating good of others. And of course, he didn't appreciate, but what the point I was trying to make is that when we offer obeisances, what is the consciousness? So supposing we meet a devotee and we say Haribol, that's nice, better than saying hi, what's up, man, yes, Haribol or Hare Krishna. But when we are doing that, the process is offering obeisances means appreciating good in those. So for instance, I meet one of you, either on Zoom or in person, the thought should be, the consciousness should be that I'm offering obeisances to you by saying Hari Bola Hare Krishna, but at the same time, I am appreciating the good in you, all the good qualities that you have, like you sing beautifully, you're preaching beautifully, or you are explaining Krishna consciousness beautifully. You're so humble, you are so caring towards other devotees. So like this, we start appreciating, of course, not what you call not mechanically, or I have to do that so I'm doing it. No, it comes from the heart that I'm really appreciating the good in others, and at the same time, while offering obeisances, I am working on my shortcomings. What other shortcomings do I have? What are the impurities that are there in my heart? I start working on them, I start thinking about them. So Markandeya Rishi, he offered them words of welcome. He gave them a place to sit, wash their feet, offer them scented water, fragrant oils, flower gardens, and even performed an arati. Prabhupada says this is how we welcome a guest. Of course, that is not really practical. Every guest that comes, imagine that there is a Bhagavatam class. We start meeting in person Bhagavatam class in Amrita's house. So she's at the door, waiting for all the devotees to come. And then she has a mug and a bowl, starts washing feet of everybody walking in. Leela Krishna, Madhavi, Prema Manjari, Rama, all of them, everyone, one by one, washing their feet. Oh, she'll be tired. Bhagavatam class will be over before it even starts, right? It'll take so long. It's not really practical, but we can do that in our mind. Mind is not here, by the way. We do that in our mind. That is called Manasi Seva, where we can perform all this, honor them, and also, giving them a place to sit, please sit down, offering them water or prasadam or something. So this is how Prabhupada has taught us we should serve the devotees who are coming to our house. And then after that, then what is the next step one should do when there is a devotee visiting in the house? Not like, hey, how's the stock market? What do you think is going on? What do you think is going on with COVID-19? What do you think the mayor of Atlanta is? No, that kind of inquiry is not necessary, right? But here, Markandeya Rishi, he inquired from Lord Shiva, what can I do, or what a person who's fully, what to do to become fully satisfied. right? Fully satisfied. So there, you know, of course, the Lord, is waiting for us, to come to that stage where we have full surrender, where we are fully Krishna conscious, and that is what pleases or satisfied the Supreme Lord. And that is possible again, of course, by the mercy of Krishna. But how do we come to that stage to receive the mercy of Krishna? We follow the instructions. So that is how we are able to progress in Krishna consciousness. Let's go to verse number 17. Can someone read verse number 17 for me, please?
Again and again I offer my obeisances unto you, O all auspicious transcendental personality. As the Lord of goodness, you give pleasure. In contact with the mode of passion, you appear most fearful, and you also associate with the mode of ignorance.
So you see, here we can see that Lord Krishna was already satisfied. You see, he was satisfied with the praise that Markandeya Rishi, showered on him. And Lord Shiva, he was pleased and he smiled. And Lord Shiva told him, please ask me any benediction. Now, if if supposing the Lord had to tell us, ask for any benediction, what would be our answer? We have to be prepared. We don't know, I'm speaking for myself. I haven't reached that pure stage of Krishna consciousness. I'm just practicing, trying hard to, uh, trying hard to come to that stage, at least to the stage of mode of goodness, so that from there, there can be an advancement to the stage of pure goodness. So here Lord Shiva is telling, Lord Shiva knows, he already told Uma he doesn't want any benediction, he's not going to ask for any benediction. But still Lord Shiva, is telling him, please ask me some benediction. He says, seeing me, Lord Vishnu and Brahma, that moment, you know if one does that, that moment never goes in vain. A person receives, if a person is able to see Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu, then they receive immortality just by seeing them. That is what Lord Shiva is saying. Lord Shiva says that the demigods and Krishna, they worship, glorify and assist Brahmanas. You see, Brahmana stage is a very, very elevated stage. It is a stage where one qualifies oneself to come to that stage of being a Brahmana. So, and Lord Shiva is saying that, you see, demigods and Krishna, they worship, they glorify and they assist the Brahmanas who are saintly, peaceful, free of material attachment, compassionate to all living entities, purely devoted, no hatred, equal vision. What is that verse in Bhagavad Gita? Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastini Suni Cheva Swapakicha Panditaha Samadarshina. One who has Samadarshina, equal vision, no matter who that living entity is, that person is a Pandita. That means he is a learned person, right? Someone who has that spiritual knowledge. Because unless we have spiritual knowledge, how can we come to the stage of having equal vision? That is not possible. It's not a switch you turn on or off whenever, oh, today I'm in a mood of Samadarshina on. Today it's so boring, let me turn it off. No, it doesn't happen like that at all. It is a stage which is possible. Prabhupada says it is possible. Like yesterday, I was in the Zoom meeting where I was asked to speak about His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And there were quite a few devotees, disciples, Prabhupada disciples, and disciples of other gurus also present. And when it was time for Champaklata to talk, how beautifully she described the instructions she received from her spiritual master. And she related to us the incident that happened, that when she decided that yes, this is the spiritual master I want to accept, she approached him and she said that, Maharaj, I'm aspiring to be your disciple. Can you please give me shelter? And I was so happy to hear Bhakti Charu Maharaj told her, if you come to me, I will take you to Prabhupada. How beautiful can it be? If you come to me, I will take you to Prabhupada. And her desire was that my spiritual master take me to Prabhupada. So you see, the importance of sadhu sangha is cannot be underrated. It is very, very, very important. And that's why Guru Maharaj asks us to read every day so that we can associate with Srila Prabhupada. He encourages us, in fact, he inspires us. He himself hears Prabhupada for 2 hours. He himself, even while he's doing deity worship, one of his servants is reading books to Guru Maharaj, so that while he is doing deity work, that is a wonderful service we can do, while doing Abhishek or dressing the deities, or, listen to Srila Prabhupada. And we are so fortunate we have got those Prabhupada radios with us, which has so thousands of lectures in that one small radio, and just keep hearing and hearing and hearing. So here we can see that Lord Shiva is praising Markandeya Rishi, right? Can someone read verse number 22?
Yeah, these devotees do not differentiate between Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and me, nor do they differentiate between themselves and other living beings. Therefore, because you are this kind of saintly devotee, we worship you.
Yeah, can you read 23 and 24 also, please?
Sure. Mere bodies of water do not constitute holy places, nor are lifeless statues of the demigods actual worshipable deities, because external vision fails to appreciate the higher essence of the holy rivers and the demigods. These purify only after a considerable time, but devotees like you purify immediately just by being seen. By meditating upon the Supreme Soul, performing austerities, engaging in Vedic study, and following regulative principles, the Brahmanas sustain within themselves the three Vedas, which are non different from Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and me. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto the Brahmanas.
You see how beautiful. So Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are actually the potencies of Lord Vishnu, and three of them, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, three of them, they are ruling deities of this material world. That we have to understand. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a knowledge about this, wherein it said that Lord Brahma is in charge of mode of passion, Lord Vishnu in charge of mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva in charge of mode of ignorance. Sometimes people misunderstand that. They think that they are in those modes, that Lord Shiva is in the mode of ignorance. No, he is just in charge of that mode. So that is the difference we should understand. And from these three verses we could see that how important it is to associate just by seeing, just by seeing. And Prabhupada says that there is no difference between the deities in the temple and the Lord himself. Lord himself has descended and is there in the form of the deity. So we even associate with the Lord when we go for darshan to the temple. So important point is sadhu sangha sarva shastra kahe, lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. Just lava matra, just a split second. If one associates with just for a split second, one is able to get purified, you see. And there was a talk about pure devotees. Now these pure devotees, they are the most elevated, and Prabhupada explains that they have been sent down in this material world for sinful people like us, so that with their association they can start our spiritual life. And then of course it's our responsibility, what do we do with that mercy that we receive? then we need to nurture it. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, that you have to keep chanting Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam. So that chanting process is the watering process of the seed of devotion that is sowed by the spiritual master in the heart of the devotee. So these pure devotees, they are most elevated. And Lord Shiva is telling Markandeya Rishi that worst sinners are purified just by hearing about devotees. Right? Of course, he's also pointing devotees like Markandeya Rishi, who is more purified when, someone speaks directly. So Lord Shiva is saying that Markandeya Rishi is at such a highest perfection stage that just directly speaking with you can bring purification. Of course, Lord Shiva doesn't need purification. But the point is that when we associate with pure devotees, then our sinful reactions start getting wiped out. Our heart starts getting purified. You see, and why? Because these hearing processes, the sound vibrations, they help one to become self-realized. You see, that is the process. Srila Prabhupada has given us a complete process. Excuse me. He's given us a complete process, and also he has shown the way how to follow this process. This process will help us to reach that Brahma Bhuta stage, right? Brahma Bhuta, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na shochati na kankshati. There is no lamentation, there's no hankering. That is the stage that we want to reach, which is the stage of full surrender and complete self-realization. So, Sutta Goswami continues and he says that Markandeya Rishi, he heard these nectarian words and was completely satiated, satisfied. He was not eager to hear his praise, but he appreciated Lord Shiva's deep realization and he wanted to hear more and more and more. That is what hearing does. When we hear, then because the cleansing process takes place, then we have the desire to hear more. It's not, whenever we hear lectures, usually before this lockdown, when we were hearing lectures in person, when the lecture is over, does anyone raise a finger and said, can I hear more? No, we said, where's prasadam? Let's go. It's time for prasadam, right? The pet puja is to be done. That is important. Oh, we've heard enough for 45 minutes. Now it is time for me to satisfy my senses, satisfy my tongue. And then the first thing we look in prasadam table is, there is this. Oh, there is that. The other day, Leela Krishna Prabhu sent me a picture of rasgullas. But that's just a picture. I cannot eat the picture, right? I cannot taste the rasgulla by eating the picture. I'm not hinting, by the way. I'm just making. You can take it as a hint. That is up to you. But I'm not hinting right now. So, thinking of rasgullas, I forgot what I was talking about. Hearing more, kind of develops a desire to hear more, right? See, now by this example, you all know he makes very good rasgullas. So once we start meeting in person, I don't know when that is, Leela Krishna got the hint. I am pretty sure. Anyway, so he was not eager to hear his own praise. If someone praises us, we like, yeah, go on. Yeah, some more. Yeah, I know, I'm so great. Go on, you can go ahead. No, he was feeling embarrassed to hear his own praises. He was not eager to hear, but instead he was appreciating Lord Shiva's deep realization and he wanted to hear more. Now it's mentioned that Markandeya Rishi was very exhausted because he was in trance for such a long time, no food, no drinking, nothing at all. He was, by all that process, he was exhausted. But hearing Lord Shiva's words, that suffering was removed. He was again in that happy state. Not that he was not happy before, but he was in a state where he didn't feel the exhaustion, right? And it is mentioned in this chapter that Lord Vishnu appeared in the person of Lord Shiva to remove the suffering of Markandeya Rishi, giving him blissful spiritual instructions, right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that when one surrenders unto him, he gives them what they lack and he preserves what they have, right? So that is what Lord Vishnu did here for Markandeya Rishi, right? He appeared in the person of Shiva and he removed his suffering. And we can see that Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about this, blissful spiritual instructions, these books of Srila Prabhupada, they are full of instructions for our benefit. Somehow or the other, we can get purified, break this cycle of birth and death, and go back to our constitutional position of being the servant of the Lord, where in our constitutional place, which is Goloka Vrindavan. So I have completed verse 1 through 27, and we will continue in next class the remaining part of the chapter. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one question, Mataji.
Yes.
Parvati Mata was saying that to Lord Shiva to go to him and give perfection, right? So
Mhm.
he was already perfect because he was already in samadhi and he was already meditating on Krishna, on Vishnu. So why did she say that?
Yes, very good. Srila Prabhupada explains that, Srimad Bhagavatam is full of instructions by Krishna, instructions by his devotees, the pastimes of his devotees, like Markandeya Rishi's pastime. Right now, we are trying to understand. Yes, you're right. He was already, but here to show us that, Lord Shiva is considered to be Ashutosh, very easily pleased. So showing that when he is easily pleased, he gives benediction. So it is a pastime to show us that, if we surrender fully and if we have reached that highest perfection, still there is a benediction waiting for us, though the devotees don't want any benedictions. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, when Krishna appeared before him, told him, ask a benediction. He says, no, I've got everything, right? Like Prabhupada gives a nice example of $100 bill. $100 bill already includes $10, right? If someone gives us $100, we say, oh, where is $10? I want $10 to. No, it's included inside that $100. So complete surrender. Yes, he was at that highest perfection stage, but still, Lord Shiva also wanted to give him benediction to show that devotees are not greedy. They're not waiting, okay, I'm chanting, come on Krishna, you got to come, you got to come, I have a shopping list for you, kind of. No, they don't have that in their mind, right? So here this is also to show as an example that yes, when demigods are pleased, they offer us benediction. And what should a devotee do, right? If sometimes the Lord insists, no, you must ask for a benediction, then what? Ask for love for Krishna, right? So here this is these are the different reasons why he offered benediction. Okay.
Yes, Mataji. One more question. So, Dhruva Maharaj, when he meditated on Krishna in his heart, Lord Vishnu appeared in his heart. From his heart, he came outside and gave him benediction. So when the Muni was meditating on Krishna, then why did Lord Shiva enter and Shiva come? I mean, why didn't Vishnu come? Generally, we have seen everyone who have been meditating on Krishna, Krishna appears, right?
Mhm, mhm. So when we continue with this chapter, we will see the reason behind it. Lord Krishna wanted Lord Shiva to give some instructions, right? In fact, there's a whole chapter, right, which is about prayers of Lord Shiva to Lord Krishna. So this is to show us the position of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, and also to show us that even Lord Krishna's pure devotees are so potent to give instructions. So the main reason was, like, we have also heard, I have a book of Srila Prabhupada's shlokas, the shlokas that he, talked about in his lectures all those years, in different lectures. So in that, there is this beautiful verse of Lord Shiva telling Parvati that, the highest form of worship is worship of Lord Vishnu, just to show us that Lord Shiva himself is chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. So there is a reason behind, what was the reason Arjuna was bewildered, right? Arjuna was bewildered because Krishna wanted that. Krishna wanted that, that Arjuna remain in that consciousness of being in Maya, so that Arjuna could ask those questions on our behalf, and Krishna could give us the answers. Okay.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a quick question. On in verse 19, it says Sri Bhagwan Uvacha, and but it is referring to Lord Shiva. So,
Yes.
so is that kind of leading towards what you're saying, that Lord Vishnu or Krishna came in the form of Lord Shiva, and that's why it is referred to Bhagwan Uvacha?
I will not speculate, but what I have heard from Srila Prabhupada is that many times Narad Muni is addressed as Bhagwan. Many times you see Lord Shiva. So we have to see reference to the context. It is to say that they are so purified, they're so pure that they can be addressed like that. You see? So that doesn't mean that they are on the same stage as Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So that Bhagwan word is used. So here it's used for Lord Shiva, because I don't have uh, I don't have enough knowledge to speak about Lord Shiva, but from what I have heard all these years, that he is at a very elevated stage.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay, if no questions, then we will see you all